How's it going, Hawks fans? Welcome back to McKeon Park. We're back at home. It's time for another parking lot preview. Mike Najarian, joined today by Tim Brown once again. No Matt Ford-Wellman today, but, Tim, who said we can't have fun together?
Right, we have to have fun.
Yeah, and, against Falmouth on Wednesday night, the Harbor Hawks were sure having fun. It felt like a must-win game coming in. That's exactly what happened. They won 9-5. What happened that night, Tim?
The Harbor Hawks had a great start out of Richie Roman. I believe it was 5 scoreless innings. Mike, as irony would have it, I come up to you after that fifth and I say if Richie goes one more, he would have the first quality start of the Cape League so far this season. And then he gets pulled in favor of Hunter Dietz, and eventually Falmouth offense gets underway there, reties the game at 5 apiece, but then going off in the top of the ninth were the Harbor Hawks. They stormed ahead to take that win away. Ryan Speciak with a good performance in the bottom of the ninth. Not quite a save as you were predicting, but still very solid performance from the Harbor Hawks closer. And that was a huge game, like you said, Mike, to keep the lead in the West Division standings for the Harbor Hawks. It was an absolutely excellent win against a hot Falmouth team, and they'll try to do it against a middling Orleans team today.
Yeah, absolutely. It took the Hawks a little bit longer than we had thought to get to win number 10. It took them to game 21, but you know what? They got it. The win's out of the way. Mitch Carricker said after the game, it felt like we hadn't won one in a while. So, the vibes were up for sure. And Orleans, Hyannis 10-8-3. Orleans, they're facing 8-11-2. The Hawks are 1-0-1 against them. Last week, 8-8 tie against these guys right here at McKeon Park. What do you remember from that game?
Well, the Hawks went up big 8-1 early on, and then a 5-run fifth inning, I believe, for Orleans broke them back into the game. All around, just it was a disappointment for the Harbor Hawks. You could see it on their face. Mitch Carricker wasn't happy in the post-game huddle with the team. I remember walking out of here and talking to our sideline reporter, Ethan Wax, and I was like, man, that's a tough loss. He corrected me. That's a tie. But it just felt like a loss with how much momentum they had early in the game, and to give it all away and settle with a tie. I mean, that still kept them in that 4-game winless streak that they had prior to being Falmouth. So overall, there's a lot to strive for today against Orleans. They've faced them twice. They're high scorers if you give them the chance. But again, they haven't been one of the best offenses in the Cape League this season. Hyannis has. It's time for the Hyannis pitching staff to step up, especially the bullpen late in these games. Yeah,
you just mentioned the Orleans offense. That gives me a perfect little transition here. The Orleans offense really not great all year. They're last in the Cape League in batting average, slugging percentage, OPS, 7th in the league in on-base percentage, and that's because they lead the Cape League in walks. But what they do as hitters, they also strike out a ton. They lead the Cape League in strikeouts. They've struck out 202 times.
Wow.
They're the only team in the Cape League with over 200 strikeouts, 8th in total hits, 9th in total runs scored, tied for 7th in runs batted in. It's kind of a middling Orleans offense, but when they face Hyannis, I don't know what it is. They've scored 16 runs in 2 games against them. It's been 8-8. It's just kind of like that. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. And toeing the mound for Orleans tonight, you got JT Robb, right-handed pitcher from Georgetown. This is going to be his second start of the summer for the Firebirds. His last start was a little over a week ago, July 3rd against Chatham. Pitched 3 2/3 innings, scoreless innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, struck out 5 hitters. For Georgetown this year, had a 3.63 ERA, a little bit high of a whip, 1.56. That's because, he was walking guys. He averaged just over 4 walks per 9. His strikeout numbers were solid, just over 9 strikeouts per 9 in 74 innings, 14 starts, but this is going to be a new arm that Hyannis is seeing today. So, I think given that his last start was only 3 2/3 innings, we probably won't see him go much deeper than that. But I think if you're Orleans, you're hoping to get him into the 5th inning. And, we'll flip it over to you, Tim. What's the Orleans offense, who I just talked about, going to be taking on from Hyannis?
They'll be facing Tsubasa Tomi today. His second start for the Harbor Hawks, his last one was July 4th against the wow, the Yarmouth Dennis Red Sox, and that was a big game. That was between the two best teams in the league. Again, East and West leaders currently, and it was a 2-1 win for the Red Sox as Tommy gave up 2 runs. Let me pull it up here really quickly. I believe he only gave up just 1 hit, 2 walks, and 1 run, but then Russell came in and allowed 1 as well. But Tommy, he was good. I'll say he was great to start. It was only his final inning of work that the Red Sox were able to get to him, and he's got big swing and miss stuff. That's something that will work well against this Orleans offense. That, I mean, you said 202 strikeouts,
202,
and we're what, 21 games in?
Yeah, this is game 22 today.
So
yeah.
that's a little over 9 Ks a game, Mike. That's insanity. Yeah. That's over 9 strikeouts a game as a team. And that, through the whole game, but obviously Tomey's going to be a big factor in totaling up strikeouts early on, and that's definitely somewhere that, the Harbor Hawks are going to look to get momentum in their pitching staff. We mentioned last time they had the 8-1 lead. They gave it up. You want to follow up your starter with a great secondary guy, right? I mean, the last game against Falmouth, it was Hunter Dietz, the first man out of the bullpen, who got blown up a little bit. And then it was hard to recover from there, but eventually the offense got going again for the Harbor Hawks. Here, you need good support behind Tomey, but you need Tomey to get deep, and I think he can do that with how great his efficiency was on the mound against Yarmouth Dennis.
Yeah, he pitched, like you mentioned, didn't have a very long start against YD. Do you think he goes 5 today?
I don't know about 5, but if I'm Mitch Carricker, I'm really confident on 4. Okay. Right? I think that would be a very valuable number for him. If he got 5, I'd be really impressed, but that just depends on his efficiency in these first couple of innings. We'll see how often that Orleans is swinging and missing. As you said, they do lead the league in walks still, so definitely very disciplined hitters, but overall, Tomey does do a good job of filling the strike zone and getting guys to chase near it, so he will get these hitters activated, I'll say.
Yeah, and, just talked about the Orleans starting pitcher, JT Robb. He's gonna have a challenge going up against the Hyannis offense today. Obviously, no Andrew Williamson. He's not in the lineup, but he had a very good game last time against Orleans, 3 for 4. Brody Briggs is back in the lineup for Hyannis. He had a 3-run home run against Orleans last time. You've still got plenty of impact guys.
Let's go Hawks.
Let's go Hawks.
Where'd you get that? Oh my goodness, Owen Wigren.
Okay.
In full uni.
Wow. Okay.
How is he allowed to do that? I want to do that. Wow.
Oh, we should look into Tim. We should look into seeing if we can do a game.
I thought that was Hayden Federico himself coming up to me, but he just left the team this weekend.
Tim, we should look into see if we can do a parking lot preview in full uniform one of these days.
I would absolutely love that, Mike.
If we can pull that off, I think that would be awesome.
That would be excellent.
But
wow.
like I was saying, a little bit of a different Hyannis lineup, but still a lot of talent in there. Charlie Bates has been heating up lately. He's back in the lineup, starting once again. Who are some of the guys Rob and the Orleans pitching staff are going to have to deal with tonight?
Well, Ryan McKay is always a threat. I've been his biggest fan all year, I think I'll say, other than, Matt Ford-Wellman is very keen on him as well. Yeah. But power hitter in the infield, he's been a big problem. Jeff Luigi is, again, one of the guys who are just so dangerous to face on this team, a big on-base threat. He did damage in Falmouth in our last game. So those are definitely some guys to look out for. Also, Ray Velasquez, we've been waiting for him to get going. He's in the DH spot tonight. Hopefully he can focus on hitting because he has a great power swing and he just needs to show it off.
Yeah, I think it's good that you mentioned those guys because, we'll transfer right over into our player of the game predictions and our score predictions. I'll get started here. I think Orleans has had a habit of scoring 8 runs against Hyannis. First game we played them, Hyannis won 11-8. Last week, it was an 8-8 tie. So I think, if Hyannis, 9 runs is a lot, but if Hyannis could score 9, it seems like they can win the game against these guys.
Right.
So, give me Give me a repeat of the first game. Give me 11-8, a Hyannis victory.
Wow.
I think it's these two teams have scored a lot of runs against each other this season. I have zero reason to think that won't continue. So give me 11-8 Hyannis victory, and player of the game. I feel like Jake Schaffner is the guy today. He's playing shortstop today. He was used off the bench in the ninth inning against Falmouth last night. After the first two runners reached, Mitch Carricker put on the bunt play for him, laid down a bunt that was maybe a little harder than he would have liked, but Falmouth's pitcher at the time, he didn't go to first to get Schaffner. He looked at third to go get the lead runner. He threw the ball there late. Everybody was safe, and the bases were loaded, and then right after that, Hyannis scored 4 runs. So, I think Jake Schaffner is going to have a nice game at the plate today. He's a pretty good hitter, pretty good fielder. He's going to have a couple hits, driving a couple runs. So Jake Schaffner, player of the game, 11-8, Hyannis win.
Wow. Is 19 total runs the most we've ever guessed? I'm going to put my money on that.
I think so.
I don't think I've been ambitious enough to go for 20.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Should I be ambitious enough to go for 20? I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. That's a big number, Mike.
I know, but I mean, with the way these teams have hit each other, this might be the game for it.
You're right. I don't see a reason that it wouldn't be a high score. I just don't think it'll be to the degree that you're thinking. Okay. Like you said, Andrew Williamson is out of this lineup now. He's gone home. There's other players exiting for Orleans as well that I'm sure they're going to miss. I think the scoring tone's down here.
Okay.
Give me a 6-4 Hyannis victory. And for my player of the game, give me Jeff Luigi. Okay. He has been so consistently good for Hyannis. Yes. And this time for him to break through fully with a huge game over Orleans.
I do like that Jeff Luigi pick because, he was saying last night and before the game today, had some struggles to start the year. But, he feels like he's kind of turned a corner a little bit. He's obviously had the 2-run single in the ninth last night, gave the Hawks some big insurance. So I like that pick. And, it's a Friday night home game in July. I mean, where else would you rather be than McKeon Park?
Where else?
I think, we've had a pretty good run of fans really packing this place. They've been cheering. We've been kind of engineering the luge chant, whatever.
I'm needing more of that. I'll be needing a lot of that tonight.
Whenever Jeff Luigi comes to bat, with some luck, we'll be saying that a lot tonight. You know what else we'll be saying, Tim?
What are we going to be saying, Mike? Go Hawks!